from CBU. We know you are from here. Okay, so yes, the meeting will be recorded. Okay, so we'll do this. I'll try to be fast, but say by I'll give you a break at around 9:20. 9:20. That is for those guys in uh, from CBU and Zambia. That will be 8:10 from you, and from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, that will be 7:10 around that time. So I think we can start. So somebody is recording. Uh, okay, I hope whoever is recording, you share the recording with us later. I think time we can now start. Um, okay, allow me to use my phone. All right. So we start. Okay, my name is Wallace Shegemunyere. Aaron Sami, I know most of you from UN know him. He's with me. Yeah, so if you have questions, please type them in the chat box. Sami will take a look at them and answer. Then when we have a break, I'll also attend to some of the questions. Okay, so the scope for today is to review the embryology of the following systems: the breast, the limbs, skin, head and neck, neuroembryology, the brain, and the spinal cord. Okay, so we start with the breast. When it comes to development of any organ, when it comes to development of any organ in the human body, so organogenesis, as long as you can mention the three S, you mention the site, the source of mesenchyme for formation of that organ, and the sequence of events, I think you'll have covered systemic embryology. Okay, so the site for development of the breast is the milk line, which is simply ectoderm of ectodermal in origin and extends from the mid axillary line to the mid inguinal point. Okay, then the source of mesenchyme now, which now forms the breast, the parenchyma of the breast, the part of the breast which now produces the milk, that is the acini, the duct, and the ductules. Okay, so that one is of ectodermal. Okay, it's of ectoderm in origin, whereas the stroma, the supporting tissue, is from the mesoderm. Okay, now what is the sequence of events? So a milk line forms, which extends from the mid axillary line to the mid inguinal point, but then in man it degenerates apart from the pectoral pair. Okay, so you can see the milk line had formed all the way from your axilla to your mid inguinal point, but only the pectoral pair, where now the human breast had found, that is the only pair that is retained. Okay, then we have the invagination of the ectoderm. That ectoderm now invaginates into the underlying mesoderm, and as it does so, it branches. Okay, it branches and finally undergoes canalization, and then finally the nipple everts. So initially the nipple is inverted, but prior to birth, just prior to birth, it everts. Okay, so these are the this is a diagram to show you that the milk line extended from your mid um, auxiliary line to your mid inguinal point. There it is on both sides, but then it undergoes degeneration apart from the uh, pectoral pair. You can see it. But then, if we take a section through that and see what is happening, you can see that we have the ectoderm here. You can see the ectoderm starts to invaginate into the underlying mesenchyme, and then as it does so, it starts to branch. To branch, then you have to canalize so that you can now get that the lactiferous duct and the breast acini. But then here you can notice that the nipple is inverted, but this nipple has to undergo eversion. Okay, it has to undergo eversion. Okay, so we have a lot of if this is I'm just trying to keep it as simple, but know that there is a lot of details regarding this. Okay, we have even molecular factors, signals, which control how even the breast branches. Okay, so I won't bother you with that, but for now, understand this sequence of events. Okay, try to understand this sequence of events. That tells you that, and this explains why, if you look at dogs actually have a lot of mammary glands. That tells you that their mammary line did not degenerate like that of man. Even cows, the cows, if you look at cows, they do have two pairs of mammary glands. So that tells you how development of even the mammary glands in other animals takes place. But this is for man. Okay, so the reason you are taught embryology is because you have congenital anomalies. So we start. Which congenital anomaly is this? Put your answers very fast in the chat box. Put your answers very fast in the chat box. Which anomaly is this? Very good. That's polyphilia. Very good. That's polyphilia. Okay. Which one is this? Which one is this? Yes, I can see Nancy, Duda. Yes, very good. It's a polymastia, but you want to say, where is this polymastia located? Where is it located? Where is it located? Yes, so it's an axillary polymastia. It's an axillary polymastia. Okay, and maybe it's unilateral. In this case, we can only see one side, so it's a unilateral axillary polymastia. Which one is this? Mm-hmm. Which one is this? Very good. Very good. This Athelia, very good. Vero and Brighton, very good. This Athelia, you can see that the breast is there. The breast is there, but the nipples are absent, right? So that's Athelia. Which one is that? Okay, so I can see Hanan is saying Poland syndrome. Others are saying amastia. Okay, okay. So I think we can agree both are correct because amastia might be standalone. So you might have a standalone amastia, but in most cases, amastia occurs together with Poland syndrome. Okay, so Poland syndrome is you might find there is amastia, but you also have other anomalies of the upper limb. Now, polydipia comes about because you have incomplete degeneration of the milk line, okay? So a nipple is formed also along that milk line. Same case for polymastia, where now breast tissue is formed also from the milk line. So because of failure of degeneration, complete degeneration of the milk line. Now, adidi is failure of formation of the nipples, okay? And this is a unilateral amastia where the breast fails to develop on one side. So because there is complete degeneration of the milk line, okay, on one side. So if in this case the right side uh, the right sided milk line decided to degenerate and completely, so in that case no breast will be formed. Okay, I think you guys are good with that. Can proceed. Okay, which one is this? Uh-huh. Okay, let me see your answers. Very good. That's an inverted nipple. It is due to failure of eversion of the nipple. Very good. You guys are good. All right. Yeah, and that's the breast. We have already developed the breast and discussed some anomalies, but you might want to go and add some more details regarding the breast and look if you have other anomalies. Now, limb development, very important. Okay, very important. So, where's the site? The site is the lateral body wall. Okay, the lateral body wall. And for the upper limb, it's the lateral body wall which corresponds to the lower cervical and upper thoracic region. So, ideally from C5 to T1, okay, where the brachial plexus would actually be. That is the region where the limb bud would develop from. For the lower limb, it's from the lower lumbar and upper sacral regions. Okay, so that is the site on the lateral body wall. Then the source of mesenchyme, some sources include the somatic layer of lateral plate mesoderm. Okay, so who will tell us what derivatives in the limbs with the somatic layer of lateral plate mesoderm give you? What are some derivatives of the lateral plate mesoderm, the somatic layer within the limbs? What are some derivatives? Guys, I expect you to remember your week 3 derivatives. Yes, the skeleton, very good. The skeleton, also the dermatome, very good. It will give you the dermis, okay, the dermis and the bones, very good. So the appendicular skeleton and the dermis, very good, Emmanuel. So the paraxial mesoderm is another source of mesenchyme. So what will the paraxial mesoderm give you within the limbs? We are restraining ourselves to the limbs. I know paraxial mesoderm has very many derivatives. Very good. The musculature. Remember, the paraxial mesoderm is the one which goes on to form somites, and then the somites divide into two parts: the sclerotome and the dermamyotome. Then the dermamyotome, the myotome portion is the one which gives you actually the musculature. Remember that myotome will initially divide into two parts, an epaxial part and a hypaxial part. Remember, the epaxial is innervated by the dorsal ramus, and it is the one which will form the muscles of the back, the true muscles of the back. I'm sure you saw the true muscles of the back. That is the rectus spinae and the others. Then the hypaxial is now innervated by the ventral ramus, okay, and is the one which now forms the muscles of the anterior body wall and the muscles which now migrate to the limbs. Okay, so if asked any muscle, let me ask this: a muscle such as trapezius, does it originate from the hypaxial or the epaxial musculature? Okay, let me not use trapezius. Let me use trapezius might confuse you somehow. Let me use latissimus dorsi. Latissimus dorsi, does it come from the hypaxial or the epaxial musculature? Okay, okay, yes, it's actually, hmm, actually Joy has it. Joy and Rosa have it. It's from the hypomere, okay? They are hypaxial muscles. Please remember, hypaxial muscles, or muscles which now originate from your hypomere, are innervated by the ventral ramus, okay? And remember, ventral ramus is of the two rami, only ventral ramus can form a plexus. So the brachial plexus is formed by the ventral rami of C5, C6, C7, C8, C1. Okay. So remember this: ventral ramus is the only one which can form plexus. Dorsal rami do not form plexuses. So any muscle innervated by the brachial plexus, by default, it originated from the hypomere and then it migrated. A muscle such as latissimus dorsi, even if it is located on your back, it originated from your hypomere, but then decided to migrate. You just look at the innervation. That is the trick. Look at the innervation. Okay. So a muscle such as the rectus spinae, it is innervated by the dorsal rami. Okay. The dorsal rami of those nerves. For that reason, it is of epimere. It came from the epimere. Okay. It is an epaxial muscle. But hypaxial muscles are innervated by the ventral ramus. Remember that. So all muscles of the upper limb and the lower limb are of hypomere in origin. Eh? Please note that. Note that. So maybe in your free time, go and ask yourself this question: what about the gluteal muscles? The gluteal muscles are they of hypomere or epimere origin? Go and try to discuss that. Then we have the neurocrest cells. Now the neurocrest cells remind me, someone to remind me some two derivatives of the neurocrest cells. We are talking in the limb, in the limb. Very good. Sensory nerves, melanocytes, very good. What else? Merkel cells, very good. What else? Okay, ganglia. Would you have autonomic ganglia in your upper limb? Rather not. Or would you? Let me see. I don't think so. What else? What else, guys? There is yes, very good. Schwann cells, very good. So Schwann cells. So that is the source of mesenchyme. Now we have signaling centers. Signaling centers are very important. Signaling centers are very important, and these signaling centers are the ones which establish the axes, the various axes which your limb has. So your limb has 3 axes. Okay. Okay, let me see if I can now try to maybe share my video so that I can show you this very fast. Um, okay, I'm trying to, I have to join with another device so that I can share my video. So you need to understand how the limbs actually develop, how those axes are, other axes are oriented. Where is that link? Okay, so okay, so let me mute this. And start. Okay, and the host allow me to share my video, please. The host, can you allow me to
Hello, which name are you using?
the same name?
Okay.
Okay. Oh. Uh, Sami, confirm you can see my video.
Yeah, we can.
Nice. But I need to see myself so that. Okay. So if this is the limb, this is the limb. So the way it develops like that, outwards from your body. Okay, outwards from your body. So my wrist, you can't see. My oh my. Okay, let me see how I try to. Okay, people can't see. Some can see what is happening. Okay, if you can see, very very good. For those who can see, maybe try to see my video. Oof, there seems, a lot of people can't see this. What is happening? Well. Um, well, can you see? If you're using a laptop, try to on the tablet where ideally your video should be, allow it to, okay, go to the participants and find my name. That is the other option. Okay, what I'm saying is that if you can see my hand, so if you can see my hand, and you, okay, if you can see my hand, that, okay. So if you can see my hand, so where my wrist is, that is proximal, and where my tip, the tip of my fingers are, that's distal, okay. And then where my thumb is, that's anterior. Where my small finger is, that's posterior. And then obviously my palm is ventral, and the dorsum of my hand is dorsal. Okay. So the way those are the three axes. Okay. So the anteroposterior axis is the axis from your thumb to your small finger. Okay. And the axial plane is determined by your middle finger. So your middle finger is the axial plane. That's where the axis of the limb bud is. Okay. So it develops like that, then grows outwards. Okay. And then we will talk more about it. Okay, let me repeat it. So the way it develops, the limb bud is positioned as I have tried to position my hand. So we have three axes. So the anteroposterior axis, where anterior is where my thumb is, and posterior is where my small finger is. Then proximal is where my wrist is, and distal is where the tip of my fingers are. Then dorsal, uh, dorsoventral, ventral is where my palm is, and dorsal is where the dorsum of my hand is. Please note that the anteroposterior axis, anterior and posterior axis, and the dorsoventral axis is not the same. Okay, is not the same. For the case of the embryo, it's not the same. Okay, so in the case of this limb bud of ours, the thumb is said to be anterior, the small finger is said to be posterior. Now, that is not the same as saying dorsoventral, because in this limb of ours, ventral means where my palm is, and dorsal is where the dorsum of my hand is. Okay, then proximal distal is where my wrist is, and proximal distal, sorry, let me repeat that. Proximal distal is where my wrist is proximal, and where the tips of my fingers are, that's distal. Then the axis, the axial plane is dictated by the middle finger. So the middle finger is the axis. So anything anterior to the middle finger, anterior means the thumb and the index finger, that is said to be pre-axial, before the axis, pre-axial. And then anything which is posterior to the axis, that is the ring finger and the small finger, that is said to be post-axial. I hope you have understood the axis of the limb bud. So that's anterior, thumb is anterior, small finger is posterior, the middle finger is the axial plane, where my palm is, that's ventral, where my dorsum is that's dorsal. Then where my wrist is, that's proximal, and where the tips of my fingers are, that's distal. Okay, so those are the axes which I need you to remember. Okay, I've stopped sharing the video. Let's continue. So those are the axes, and I hope you've understood them. Now we have signaling centers. So the apical ectodermal ridge (AER) is the one which patterns. It is the one which dictates the proximal distal axis. Okay, so patterning along the proximal distal axis is dictated by the apical ectodermal ridge. Now the zone of polarizing activity, ZPA, is the one which now dictates the anteroposterior axis. Okay, so the anteroposterior axis is patterned or dictated by the zone of polarizing activity. Now, what is the sequence? So you have your limb bands. So the limb bands elongate, then they segment into the three segments. So the styropod, which corresponds to your future arm, the zygopod, which corresponds to your future forearm, and the outerpod, which corresponds to your future hand. And then you have differentiation of the various mesenchyme. And then you also see processes such as apoptosis, which is simply cell death. Okay, cell death, natural cell death, and then rotation. As you know, after formation of the limbs, the upper limbs rotate 90 degrees externally, and the lower limbs rotate 90 degrees medially, or medially. Then, but you need to know how is the hand formed? How is it formed? So the hand develops from the outer pod. So in the outer pod, a hand plate is formed. This hand plate is somehow akin to those what the fins of a fish. Okay, akin to a fin of a fish, and then digital rays form. So the mesenchyme condenses to form 5 mesenchymal rods, which are known as the digital rays. Okay, and then the mesenchyme between the digits, what is known as the interdigital ray mesenchyme, undergoes apoptosis, and then within the digital ray, joints are formed. Right? So let me show you by the use of a diagram, which will try to summarize this. Okay, so this is what I was trying to show you. So this is let me see if I can write. Okay, so this is proximal, that's distal. So this is the proximal distal axis, and the apical ectodermal ridge is the one which allows patterning along that axis. So this here, this is the antero posterior axis. So in fact, the zone of polarizing activity is found in the posterior part. Okay, ideally, this is where the small finger would be. Okay, in your hand. So this is where the small finger would be, and your thumb would be there. Your thumb would be there. So your thumb there, your small finger, your pinky there. So that is how it happens. So the apical ectodermal ridge induces the underlying mesenchyme to proliferate. That's why it's known as the zone of proliferation, and this allows the outgrowth of the limb. So growth along the proximal distal axis. Now, the zone of polarizing activity is the one which now dictates it patterns structures along the anteroposterior axis. The question which you should be asking yourself is, why is it that I have 5 fingers and yet uh, I can? Why is it that I have 5 fingers? Chicken has 3. Other animals have many. How does this come about? It is because of the zone of polarizing activities, the one which dictates patterning along the antero posterior axis. Okay, so we'll talk about it. Let's now talk about how does the hand form. Now you can see there is formation of the hand plates. So this is the region of the outer pod. This is the region of the outer pod, and then you can see that it is flattened dorso-ventrally. So it undergoes dorso-ventral flattening to give you a adult-shaped hand and foot plates. So whatever we discussed for the upper limb applies for the lower limb as well. Then you can see digital rays are being formed. You can see 5 digital rays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are simply mesenchymal condensation. Okay, so mesenchyme condenses to form the digital rays, and then notches start to appear between the digital rays. So the interdigital mesenchyme, that mesenchyme between the digits starts to undergo apoptosis, and then you form webbed digits, somehow akin to those of a duck. Okay, somehow akin to those of a duck, but then you don't want that. That's why that even those webs, the interdigital webs, undergo further death. The cells forming that web, they undergo apoptosis to form now the separate digits which you and I have. Okay, So that's how the hand is formed. So, but now you need to understand that if you look at your fingers, your fingers have what are known as the interphalangeal joints. Digits 2, 3, 4, 5 have two interphalangeal joints, whereas the thumb has one interphalangeal joint. Now, those joints, you need to understand that the digital rays, you have joint formation within the digital rays. Okay. Okay. So, but now my question is, what could go wrong? Yes, let me ask you that question. A lot of things could go wrong. Okay, a lot of things could go wrong, and you'll tell me what these anomalies are, and then we will. So, which anomaly is this? A. Let me now take my pointer. Which anomaly is that? Let me open the chat box. Explain segmentation. Okay, so as that limb bud grows outwards, okay, as that limb bud is growing outwards, it is directed by some genes. We have some genes which direct that limb bud to differentiate into three parts: a stylopod, a zygopod, and an autopod. The stylopod corresponds to the region of the future arm. The zygopod corresponds to the region of the future forearm, and the autopod corresponds to the region of the future hand. Okay. So I can see all of you are saying polydactyly, but I want you to add something. That answer, okay, polydactyly, okay, but please give me an answer uh, using the concept which I've just explained to you about preaxial, postaxial. Preaxial, postaxial. Which one is it? Yes, it's a polydactyly. Very good. But which one? Because we have two types. We actually have three types of polydactyly. Very good. This is a preaxial. So it's a preaxial polydactyly. If you say that in an examination, now we know this guy knows anatomy. Okay? Very good. Preaxial polydactyly. What about that one? B. What about B? What about B? Uh-huh. What about B? Yes, very good. Nancy and the M and the J-O and the rest. Yes, it's post-axial. This is post-axial polydactyly, okay? So please, if asked in an examination, please try to specify, is it pre-axial or post-axial? The basis of it is because there is formation of extra digital rays, okay? Extra digital ray. So remember, the zone of polarizing activity was the one which was patterning along, was controlling the patterning along the anteroposterior axis. This is anterior, where your thumb is. The small finger is, that's posterior. So patterning along that axis is by the zone of polarizing activity. So if it induces formation of an extra digital ray, that causes polydactyly. Okay. So yes, that's those ones you have named. Okay, now let us go through these ones very fast. Which one is that? Which one is that? Which one is that? Ah, very good, very good. Okay, the first one. I'm pointing the first one. Yes, I can see Mr. Veve. Yes, that's syndactry. Okay, that's syndactry. Yes, I can see even Emmanuel. Emmanuel is reminding us that we have two types of syndactry. Most likely, this is a cutaneous syndactry. The other one is osseous. So the two fingers could be fused, but it, if it is just cutaneous, it's just the skin which has fused. That's a cutaneous syndactry. And then, if the bones, if actually the bones of the two fingers are fused, the phalanges, that's an osseous. That's an osseous syndactry. I can see Kiprono asking, what is that type of polydactyly? We have what is known as central polydactyly. Okay, central. How do you do it? So I don't think, in fact, Joy has asked a very good question. I don't think you can be able to differentiate the two. You need an imaging, and you need an X-ray to actually see if they are fused. So this is, let's just put it as a syndactyly. Which one is that? Which one is that? Very good. That is brachydactyly. It is failure of elongation of the digital rays. So Theory of elongation of the digital race gives you brachydactyly. Which one is that? And maybe after naming it, can you remind me one teratogen which is associated with this anomaly? One teratogen which is associated with this anomaly. Yes, I can see Stacy, Gerard. Very good. This is for comedia. Which teratogen? Very good, Nancy. Thalidomide. Okay, thalidomide is a drug which was used by pregnant women in the 1960s, 1970s to alleviate the morning sickness. But it was noted that upon birth, the children were severely affected. You can see in this for comedia, you can see that the hand region, the outer pod is intact. You can see the hands are there, but there are other segments, the forearm and the arm are severely regressed. Okay, which one is this one? You don't want this guy to give you a slap, otherwise you'll have a very bad day. Which one is that? Very good. That's macrodactyly. It is due to overproliferation of the digital race. Which one is that? Which one is that? Which one is that? Which one is this? Okay, no, we want to say amputation. No, consider it as a congenital anomaly. Which congenital anomaly would that be? Melomedia. Melomedia means that all the segments of the upper limb are there, but they are just shortened. So which one is this? Adaptively, okay, I can see Abdi Rahman is trying to. Rahman has the idea. Amedia is this. Lobe structural hand, introductory amniotic band disruption. Okay, so this is apodia. This is apodia. Okay, apodia. So the apodia means that the hand region is absent. So apodia. Now this is amedia, as someone had said earlier. Okay, bilateral amedia, very good standing, very good. Okay. Which one is this one? I'm sure most of you now know this one. Very good. Clubfoot or Bill Owain. Very good. Okay, clubfoot. Everyone knows this is a clubfoot. But now tell me, what are the components? Give me the four features of a clubfoot. Yes, you can see even they are giving me the scientific Quinovarus. Very good, very good. So what are the components? What are the features of a clubfoot? How do you make? How have you known it's a clubfoot? What have you used? Yes. So what are the four components of a clubfoot? For you to say this is a clubfoot, what must you see? What must you see? Yes, I can see inversion, adduction, plantarflexion. Okay. Yes, I can see Joy. That's a very good answer. But now tell me, where? Which part of the foot would be inverted? Which one would be adducted? And which one would be plantarflexed? Okay. Maybe remember this. I'm going to give you a mnemonic, and this mnemonic, I want you to remember it. So the components of a clubfoot, use the mnemonic cave. Cave. The midfoot is cavus. So you have pes cavus, a high arched foot. A forefoot is adducted. So the forefoot is facing inward. You can see the forefoot is facing inward. Okay. The hind foot is varus. So it is also facing inward. You can see an inward facing hind foot. Okay. And then finally, you have what is known as an equine hind foot. So the hind foot is somehow plantarflexed. It looks like that of a horse. Okay. Yeah, it's like that of a horse. The hind foot is raised. Okay. It's raised. Okay. So you have some form of plantar flexion. Okay, so hind foot equinus. So in the hind foot you have two things. So the hind foot has two things. You have varus and equinus, and it is for that reason that the other name is talipes Talipes to mean the hind foot, equinovarus. Okay, Talipes equinovarus. So that name, congenital Talipes equinovarus, accounts for the forefoot. Sorry, accounts for the hind foot components, the varus and the equinus. But for the midfoot, you have a cavus, and the forefoot, you have an adductus. So remember the mnemonic cave. Which one is this one? Which one is this one? Very good. Yes, that's the developmental dysplasia of the hip. Okay, the developmental dysplasia of the hip. Great, I'm done with the limbs, but I'm sure you have noticed that I've not talked about some anomalies. You can go and discuss those anomalies, such as radiogenesis, or go and discuss if you're given an X-ray and you don't see the radius. What spectrum, which syndrome would you be thinking about if you don't see a radius? If you don't see a radius, which syndrome would you be thinking about? Go and talk about that. Skin. No, I can see Joy already knows the Holt Oram syndrome. Very good. So, skin development. The site is the surface ectoderm and the mesoderm. So, the surface ectoderm gives you the epidermis. The mesoderm gives you the dermis. But now this mesoderm, you know the dermis of the various parts of the skin value. Okay. So, surface ectoderm. Remember, you had ectoderm in the gastrula. The gastrula had three germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. This ectoderm is divided into two: a neuroectoderm and a surface ectoderm. It is the surface ectoderm which now is committed to form the skin. The source of mesenchyme, or the mesoderm, now dermatome. Now the dermatome of the somites will give you the dermis. So tell me in the chat box, the dermatome of the somite will give you the dermatome of which the dermatome of the somite will give you the dermis of which part of the body? Which part of the body? The dermis of which part of the body? Okay, I can see the trunk. Okay. Okay, truncodermis. Okay. What about the somatic layer of the lateral plate mesoderm? In fact, I want to say trunk is somehow uh, okay. You know, when you say the trunk, another one says the back of the trunk. Okay, I think the back of the trunk does it. The back of the trunk is actually more uh, somehow more correct than just trunk. Very good, Moredi Dixon, for telling us that the somatic layer of the lateral plate mesoderm gives you the anterolateral, the dermis of the anterolateral body wall and the limbs. What about the neurocrest cells? What about the neurocrest cells? What about the neurocrest cells? Very good, the face. Whenever you hear dermis of the face, neurocrest cells. Now, what is the sequence of events? Now, we have this sequence where we have the first step is epidermal specification. Epidermal specification is simply means that from the ectoderm is specified. Remember, the ectoderm, part of the ectoderm will go to form neuroectoderm. Another part will go to form your surface ectoderm. That process of specification of the ectoderm, which will eventually give you the epidermis, is what is known as epidermal specification. And then we have commitment, and then stratification. Stratification, I can put stratification, terminal, differentiation as one step. Okay, so here you can see you started with an ectoderm and a mesoderm. Okay, and then so this ectoderm is already specified. Okay, this is already specified and committed to form the epidermis. Then you can see in week 5, you can see that you don't need to remember these time periods of week 5. No, don't think they bother you with that. So you can see at week 5, you can see that the ectoderm starts to proliferate. Okay, starts to proliferate to form a layer of cells known as the periderm. Okay, a periderm. Okay, so you have a periderm, an intermediate layer, and a basal layer. Okay, so here you can see the three layers. Actually, you can see the periderm, the intermediate layer, and the basal layer over there. It is from these three, it is actually from the lower two. It is from the basal layer and the intermediate layer that you actually get the epidermis. The periderm is shed off as the what? Remind me. The periderm is shed off as the what? The periderm is shed off as the what? Very good. The vernix caseosa. The vernix caseosa. So the vernix caseosa is simply, vernix caseosa is simply means those peridermal cells, those cells from the those peridermal cells. They are not incorporated into the epidermis. Okay, so those five strata, those five strata from your histology, that is stratum corneum, stratum granulosum, stratum stratum spinosum, and the stratum lucidum. So let me once again say them. From superficial to deep, you start with the stratum corneum, okay, and then you go to the stratum lucidum where present, and then the stratum granulosum, and then the stratum spinosum. Those four came from the intermediate layer, and then the basal layer forms the stratum basale or the stratum germinativum. Okay, so the basal layer, the cells of the basal layer are the stem cells, are the cells which replace the keratinocytes. Okay, and then we have epidermal appendages starts to grow. So the epidermal appendages are the hair, the nails, the sebaceous glands. Okay, so those are the epidermal appendages. Okay, so they grow from the ectoderm. So if asked what is the origin of the say sweat glands are of ectodermal in origin. Okay, sweat glands are of ectodermal in origin. Okay, so um, um, uh, I think that's it. So as you have seen, I have not discussed the development of the epidermal appendages. I've not discussed how your hair develops, how your nails develop, how your sweat glands develop. I urge you to go and check on that. I remember in one of my exams, well, not in first year, we were asked to develop the nail, and my oh my, I won't lie to you, it was one of those questions which we did not expect that question. So please don't be caught offside. Eh? Okay. So what is this? Which anomaly is this? Abdi, you're laughing. Abdi is laughing. Please don't be caught offside. Yes, this is the melanocytic nervi. Okay, melanocytic nervi because of hyperpigmentation. So there is overproliferation of the melanocytes at that point. Which one is this? Yes, this is MJ. Yes, Felix, this is MJ. Yes, this is vitiligo. Vitiligo can be of two types. For the case of MJ, um, uh, it was acquired, okay, but we have congenital. I'll tell you the cause. For congenital vitiligo, it is due to failure of migration of the neurocrest cells. Remember, the neurocrest cells are the ones which give you the melanocytes. So if they fail to migrate to a certain region of the body, you get vitiligo. That's congenital. Acquired now, in acquired, you actually form autoimmunity. Okay, it's an autoimmune mediated process. So acquired vitiligo, your own body's immunity recognizes the melanocytes as foreign and attacks them. Okay, so that's acquired as for the case of MJ. But you have congenital. I had you to know the congenital one. Failure of migration of neurocrest cells. Which one is this? Aha, very good. That's albinism. Albinism, you know, it's a hormonal deficiency of that hormone which is responsible for formation of melanin. Okay, this one. This one. Yes, this is Vernix caseosa. Please note, Vernix caseosa is not an anomaly. I just put it there to show you. It is not an anomaly. Oof. Okay, what happened to the chat box? Ooh, my chat box disappeared. What is happening? Okay, let me see. Is that chat box? Hmm. No way I can make it small. Okay, so basis of albinism is because you have a deficiency. The deficiency of the hormone tyrosine kinase. Okay, deficiency of the hormone tyrosine kinase. Okay, which one is that one? Which one is that one? Very good. Hypertrichosis. Hypertrichosis. This is hypertrichosis. The basis is um, uh, um, formation of excess hair follicles. Okay, so you have overproliferation of the hair follicles, even in regions where they shouldn't be. Okay, which one is that one? Yes, very good. That is ichthyosis vulgaris. Okay, ichthyosis vulgaris. Very good. You guys know these things. It is due to hyperkeratinization. Hyperkeratinization. Please don't confuse hyperkeratinization and hyperpigmentation. Okay, and now I have a question for you guys. So identify A and name the cartilage associated with it. So what is A? Yes, I can see Sami is telling me that you should look for alopecia, atresia, and the cavernous hemangiomas, what are known as the port wine stains. Yes, very good. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, so which one is this one? So what is A, by the way? Okay, so okay, yes, I can see you guys are saying this is the first pharyngeal arch. But which part? You know, the first pharyngeal arch is divided into two parts. It has a this what I'm pointing is the maxillary prominence. This is the maxillary prominence, and now this is the mandibular prominence. Eh? This is the mandibular prominence. This is the mandibular prominence. Okay, so this is the mandibular prominence. Yes, and Joseph, yes, this is first year. Ideally, you should know these images. These images, the scanning electron microscopy images in your textbooks, you should have understood them. I remember last year they were given a question regarding this, and that is why I put it here because if you find it in your cards, don't be surprised. So I urge you to take your time to just go through some. Sami will share with you the book. I can't remember the name of that book. If some of you can remember the name of the book, please share the name of the book in the chat box where these images are found. Okay, so what is A? You have said the mandibular prominence. So what is the cartilage? What is the name of the cartilage associated with very good the Meckel's cartilage? Very good. Okay, so it's the mandibular prominence, the Meckel's cartilage. So B, what is B? What is B? So remember, this is the first pharyngeal arch. So the first pharyngeal arch is divided to a mandibular prominence. Sorry, what I'm pointing is the maxillary prominence. Maxillary prominence, this is the mandibular prominence. This is the mandibular prominence. So what is B? What could B be? What is B? Guys, what is B? Very good. This is the second pharyngeal arch. The second pharyngeal arch and the artery, the adult artery associated with it is the hyoid artery. Okay, the hyoid artery. So initially it is known as the stapedial artery, but that stapedial artery is transient. It is the in adults it is named as the hyoid artery. Okay, if you say stapedial artery, that's transient. It disappears. It is replaced by the hyoid artery. So name C and two cell types within it. So what is C? What is C? This one I can see you guys have taken your time to answer. Aha, very good. Very good, Rosa. Very good. Very good. Very good. Rosa has it. This is the neurotube. This is the neurotube. Okay. This is the neurotube. Okay. I'll explain. Let me explain to you how the neurotube. No, that one has some issues. And let me end this. And then I add a blank page like that. Okay. So let me do this. I'll try to draw that embryo. Okay. I'll try to draw a side view of an embryo. So the embryo you are seeing, remember, the embryo has that kyphotic curvature in the womb, that kyphotic curvature like that. Okay, it has a kyphotic curvature like that. Okay, the head is somewhere there. Imagine these are the lower limbs here, and the upper limbs would be somewhere there. So what has been done in this that microscopy image? The image was taken along this axis like that. Okay, so you are viewing it from anterior. You are viewing it from anterior. So your eyes are here. You are viewing it from anterior. So you'd see that in the lower part, you'd actually cut some parts of the embryo, and within it, you'd expect to see the neurotube there. Okay, so that is what has been done here. So this is a front view, and that is the neurotube there. So what are some two cell types within it? And I'm now sure you know the cell types. What are some two cell types which you expect there? Okay, very good. Ependymal cells. What else? Neuroblast, glioblast. Very good. Very good. Name D. What is D? What is D? This structure here. Well, chromaffin cells won't be. Chromaffin cells might not be part of the neurotube. Chromaffin cells will be within the adrenomedulla. So what is D? Aha, very good, Getao Odoni. Very good. That's the umbilical vein. That's the umbilical vein. Okay, that's the umbilical vein. Very good. That's the umbilical vein. Okay, so what are some derivatives? What are some derivatives of the umbilical vein? What are some derivatives? What are some derivatives of the umbilical vein? Okay, so where does it drain? It drains to the fetal inferior vena cava via the ductus venosus. So this ductus venosus is what evolutes to become the um, uh, ligamentum teres hepatis, ligamentum teres hepatis. So, no. Actually, the umbilical vein is what forms the ligamentum teres hepatis. Okay. And then ductus venosus becomes ligamentum venosus. Okay, ligamentum venosus. Please go and check on uh, 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 the check on the how would I call it? Please go and check on fetal cardiovascular system. Okay, fetal cardiovascular system. Identify the structure pointed and state. Oh, the arrow decided. Yeah. So there's the arrow. Okay, why not artery? Okay, the vein is the most prominent structure within the umbilical cord. So this is the umbilical cord. So this is the umbilical cord. That's the umbilical cord. Those are the edges of the cut umbilical cord. The main structure, the structure which is the biggest, the most prominent structure is the umbilical vein. So identify the structure. Why? Yes, there. Which structure is that? And state its fate. Optic vesicle. Optic vesicles will be these guys. These are the optic vesicles. That one and that one. Who is this? Okay, so this is the first pharyngeal what? Groove or cleft. Okay, first pharyngeal cleft as said by WSJ, and it forms the external acoustic meatus as also said. Okay, so remember this This is the first pharyngeal arch, that one. It has a maxillary prominence and a mandibular prominence. This is the second pharyngeal arch. So on the outside, they are lined by the ectoderm. So we have that cleft. Okay, so that's the first pharyngeal cleft. And it forms the external auditory meatus. So, okay, speaking about pharyngeal things, let us talk about the pharyngeal pouches, grooves, and membrane. So the first pharyngeal pouch, remember the pouches are on the inside. These are the pouches on the inside, and they are lined by the endoderm. Okay, they are lined by endoderm. So pouches are on the inside, clefts stroke grooves are on the outside. Remember that. So the first pharyngeal pouch is the epithelium of the middle ear cavity and the eustachian tube. Um, the second pouch gives you the epithelium of the palatine tonsil crypt. The third pouch gives the ventral component. The ventral component gives you the thymus, whereas the dorsal component gives you the inferior parathyroid. Let me emphasize this, that your inferior parathyroids come from the third pouch, whereas your superior parathyroids come from your fourth pouch. Please, please, please don't confuse the two. Don't confuse. Superior parathyroid from the fourth, inferior parathyroid from the third. And it is from the dorsal component of the pouch. From the ventral component of the pouch, you get the altimobranchial body, which is invaded by neurocrest cells to give you the parafollicular cells of the thyroid. Parafollicular cells. Okay, which now produce calcitonin hormone. Now, the first groove, only the first pharyngeal groove has an adult derivative, which is the epithelium of the external auditory meatus. Now, the second to fourth get obliterated. So the the second the second the second arch, the mesoderm of the second pharyngeal arch overgrows on the outside. It overgrows. So let me try to see if I can indicate that here. Why is it okay? So this is the second arch. So it overgrows on the outside. It overgrows. So the mesoderm overgrows and it fuses with the sixth. It fuses with the sixth pharyngeal arch. Okay, and it is for that reason you have that smooth surface of your neck. Okay, the smooth surface is thanks to the the, the mesoderm of the second pharyngeal arch overgrow grooves. Okay, and it is for the same reason, because this mesoderm is from the second pharyngeal arch. That is why you have that muscle within your neck, the platysma. Remember, platysma is a muscle derived from your second arch. Yeah? And for that reason, it is innervated by facial nerve. Okay, so because this mesoderm of the second arch is overgrowing these grooves, okay, to fuse with the sixth arch, okay, and gives you that smooth surface of your neck. You'll tell me failure of obliteration of these grooves, or what is known as the cervical sinus. What will it give you? You'll tell me later. This thin tissue which separates the pouch so the pouch is on the inside from the cleft on the outside. So only the first one gives you an adult derivative, which is the tympanic membrane. The others get obliterated. Okay, I think I can continue. Where's my? You can continue. So yeah, still more on that. The same. The cartilages. The first arch cartilage gives you the malleus, the spine of the sphenoid, the sphenomandibular ligament, and the remnants of the Meckel's cartilage. So the Meckel's cartilage gives you these structures. The Reichardt cartilage, which is the second arch cartilage, gives you stapes, thyroid process, thyroid ligaments. The upper part of the bone cartilage gives you the lower part of the body of the hyoid bone and the greater horn of hyoid bone. Then the fourth and the sixth arches fuse to give you the thyroid cartilage, the cuneiform, the corniculate, cricoid, and the arytenoid cartilages, simply laryngeal cartilages. Please note that the fifth arch in man, the fifth arch involutes. Okay, this is also the same, but now it is telling you the innervation. The nerve to the first arch is trigeminal. To the second is facial. To the third is glossopharyngeal. To the fourth and the sixth, so to the fourth laryngeal. So simply villus. But remember that the superior laryngeal branch. Remember this: the superior laryngeal branch of vagus is actually contains fibers which originated from the spinal accessory nerve. Okay? Spinal, rather not the cranial accessory, the cranial component of accessory nerve. So the cranial component of accessory nerve is what is referred to as the superior laryngeal branch of vagus. Those fibers from cranial accessory nerve usually join vagus, and the exit vagus nerve as the superior laryngeal cranial accessory nerve. Okay, other anomalies, C. So you just say A, then you tell us. What is A? What is A, guys? Then another one can be telling that what as B is. This is B. You can see that mass there, a midline mass over there. What is C? What is D? You can start with any. Okay, C, tongue tie. Okay. Tricha Collins. Which one? Which one, Tricha Collins? Okay, yes, thyrocervical cyst. I believe that is B. So B is thyrocervical cyst. So that is thyrocervical cyst. Or is it thyrocervical or thyroglossal? Please check on your, you might be knowing, is it thyrocervical cyst or thyroglossal cyst? This one? Okay, Tricha Collins A. Is it Tricha Collins? I want you to focus on this part. Okay, yes, D is the unilateral cleft lip and palate. Okay, okay, can agree that. What about A? What is A? I want you to focus on this. C, bifid tongue. Okay, C, ankylosing. Yeah, very good. Yes, can agree. C is ankylosing. Okay, or the tongue tie. Okay. What about A? No, location of the mostly they are located anterior uh, 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 oblique Sorry for that, guys. My internet decided to drop off, but sorry for that. Let me share. We finish this one thread, then I give you the break as I promised. Is my screen visible? I hope it is. Okay, can see already guys have decided to go for a break. Yes, please check the chat box. If you want to get the slides and other things, you can join uh, the Telegram channel where we have posted these things. Okay, so we were talking about B, where we said the aeroglossal duct. C is the tongue tie or the ankyloglossia. It's due to failure of degeneration of the frenulum there. And as you have stated, D is a unilateral cleft. So the unilateral cleft lip and palate is due to failure of the maxillary prominence. The maxillary prominence, we'll discuss how the face develops. So failure of this maxillary prominence of the affected side to merge with the medial nasal prominence. Okay, so you get cleft. That is the cervical cyst. I think we will develop the tongue. Let me see what time is it. Okay, I can give you a 5 minutes break. Let's be back at 9:25, 9:25, 8:25, and 7:25, respectively for East, Central, and West African times. Okay. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box. If you did not, if you want to see a slide you did not see, you can request I go back there during the break. But please go and stretch, have some water, and then come back because the other part will be now uh, uh, um, uh, a very heavy part. Meanwhile, let's see. Okay, the break is over. Now we continue. We discussed the development of the tongue and then the development of the face and the as you'll notice, I will not discuss the development of the eyes or the ears because you have ears and you have heard that. Please go and see the information regarding the development of your eyes and your ears. He who has ears to hear. So let us continue. So the tongue develops from the mainly pharyngeal arch number one and pharyngeal arch number three. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Hello, can you hear me? Please, if I drop off, if I break or drop off, please text in the group. Okay, I don't want to be dropped off. I'm not trusting this internet. It's not so. Let me see. Okay.
Can
Yes,
you
I
please
know my screen has stopped sharing. Yes, can I please do what?
share the screen about the cervical cyst? The ones with the questions.
Okay,
Yes.
this one. All right.
Yeah,
Yes, there
that
it
one.
is. What about it? What do you want it to? This you check the position of the cyst in relation to sternocleidomastoid. It's anterior to the anterior border of sternocleidomastoid. That's the location of the cervical cyst. That's the aeroglossal duct. You can see the mass. Let me take the pointer. Is that pointer? You can see the mass here. You can see that mass. It's a midline mass. It's in the median plane of the body. Okay. That's a that's a unilateral cleft lip and cleft palate. We will discuss how the face develops shortly. So worry not about this. We will discuss the basis. So once you please understand how the face is developed, how the face is develops, and once you understand that, I assure you that um uh, you will be able to give the anatomical basis of these anomalies. All right. Yes, you can see this is sternocleidomastoid. This is the muscle sternocleidomastoid. Yeah, that's sternocleidomastoid. And you can see this is the cervical cyst. You can see the cervical cyst. And then you can see the structures here in the carotid sheath. The structures in the carotid sheath. Here you can see your trachea. That's the vertebral canal. You can see the vertebral body. And most you can see this is the cervical region because you can clearly see the bifid spinous process of the which is a characteristic feature of the cervical vertebra. Okay. Yeah. Now, how does the tongue develop? The pharyngeal arch number one, the mesoderm, rather, pharyngeal arch number one, uh, gives you what is known as a lateral lingual swelling. Okay, the lateral lingual swellings come from the pharyngeal arch number one. In fact, here I have made some. This table has a mistake, and I should have omitted that. The tuberculum impar is not. The tuberculum impar does not come from the first pharyngeal arch. It comes from the second. So tuberculum impar should be here. Tuberculum impar is from the second. Okay, sorry for that. So the first pharyngeal arch gives you what are known as lateral lingual swellings, and there are two of them. Okay, there are two of them, and they usually overgrow. They usually proliferate and meet at the midline. Okay, so there are two of them, but then they meet at the midline to give you the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, the mucosa of the anterior two-thirds of the tongue. Okay, then we will talk about innervation later. Pharyngeal arch number two gives you the tuberculum impar, the structure the embryonic structure is the tuberculum impar, and this tuberculum impar is mainly overgrown by other structures. So pharyngeal arch number 2 has minimal contribution for the formation of the tongue. Now, the posterior one third is mainly formed by the pharyngeal arch number 3, and so from the ventral part of what is known as the hypobranchial eminence, okay? Hypobranchial eminence or the hypopharyngeal eminence or the copula, okay? So copula, hypopharyngeal eminence, hypobranchial eminence, one and the same thing. So it gives rise to the mucosa of the posterior one third of the tongue. So the pharyngeal arch number 4 forms a small region, just the posterolateral parts, of the posterior one third of the tongue. So that posterior one third of the tongue, just the posterior part, the posterior and lateral part of that posterior one third comes from the pharyngeal arch number 4. And the innervation is shown. General sensations from arch 1 is bilingual nerve, this sensation by chorda tympani. Then from the posterior, so that's anterior 2/3. From the posterior third, you have glossopharyngeal, both general and taste sensations. And then for the most posterior part of the posterior one third, you have the superior laryngeal nerve. Okay, the superior laryngeal nerve. Then remember the somites. It's the occipital somites which give rise to the tongue musculature. Okay, the tongue musculature comes from the occipital somites, and as they migrate, they carry their nerve, which is hypoglossal nerve. But we have one muscle of the tongue, which actually originates from arch number, is it 4? The palatoglossus. Yes, pharyngeal arch mesoderm, which gives rise to the palatoglossus, which is innervated by the cranial accessory nerve. Yeah, cranial accessory nerve. Okay, so cranial accessory nerve via that pharyngeal plexus. Remember how the nerves form the pharyngeal plexus just at the posterior part of the pharynx, okay, or within the mucosa of the pharynx. Okay, so this is tongue development. You had seen some anomalies. Now, finally, face development. You need to understand this one. So, how does the face develop? For you to understand the development of the face, you need to understand what are some structures found on the face before it actually develops. So we have this primitive mouth. That's the primitive mouth, what is known as stomodium. Okay, that's the stomodium. So the primitive mouth is surrounded by prominences which give rise to the face. Okay, so the first prominence is this one, which is known as the frontonasal prominence. Frontonasal prominence because it has a frontal prominence, which will eventually give you your forehead and the bridge of the nose. And then you have the nasal prominence, which will give you, as the name suggests, part of the nose. Okay, so that's the frontonasal prominence. And then we have the maxillary prominence, maxillary prominence, and the mandibular prominence. Remember these prominences or arch, those ones come from the maxillary and the mandibular prominences. Those ones come from the first arch, okay, the first arch. So you can see them there. I want you to please understand what is happening. What I'm trying to do here is show you a diagram and then what you'd actually see in real life. Okay, so I'm urging you to please understand, be able to replicate this image here. Try to see the events occurring also in the microscopic images. So during development within the frontonasal prominence, you form a nasal placard. A nasal placard develops. Okay, it's a depression, a nasal placard. So the central part of that nasal placard becomes a pit. So what is known as a nasal pit, but then the surrounding mesenchyme, which takes the shape of a horseshoe, that one is what is known as the nasal prominence. So the nasal prominence is there. You can see these are the nasal prominences. So we have a medial nasal prominence and a lateral nasal prominence there. Okay, and you can see, so this is the nasal pit. This is the, please note, this is the lateral nasal prominence. This is the medial nasal prominence. Okay, there it is there. On this one, you can see that this here is the lateral nasal prominence. This is the medial nasal prominence. This is the nasal pit there. You can see the nasal pit. Please don't confuse. So this structure here, this is maxillary prominence. This is a maxillary prominence. This structure corresponds to that structure there. I'm taking you step by step so that you don't get lost, because if they give you this image, they might point, say, that structure and ask you the adult derivative. I don't want you to be confused. Please be able to see this image and try to see the drawing it's drawing. Okay, so that's how initially they are, but you can see during development, the two mandibular prominences or the two mandibular arches, they are the first ones to fuse. Okay, they fuse as shown there. So you can see here they are fused, but you can see the two maxillary prominences are yet to fuse. So the two mandibular, once fused, that mandibular arch gives you the lower lip and the lower jaw. Okay, so the lower lip and the lower jaw come from the mandibular prominences, and then you can see that the two medial nasal prominences, this one, and that one, or on this diagram, this one and this one, you can see they approximate. At this point, they are not yet okay. If you compare at this point and at this point, you can see they are somehow approaching the center. Okay, they are approaching the center so that they fuse, and you can see once fused, they give you the philtrum of the lip. Okay, the philtrum of the lip. They also give you the primary palate, and they also give you the incisive portion of the upper jaw. Okay, so three things come from the medial nasal prominences. So once they fuse, once the two medial nasal prominences, so you can see the medial nasal prominence here and the other one there. Once they fuse at the center, they form what is known as the intermaxillary segment. That intermaxillary segment gives you three things. One, the philtrum of the lip, okay, the primary palate, and so the primary palate and the incisive segment, this portion of the upper jaw, the maxilla. Okay, and they also give you part of the nasal septum, this lower part of the nasal septum. Then you can see the two lateral system. Initially there is a duct between the duct. That's the nasal duct. Okay, nasal duct. In fact, it's a groove, it's a lacrimal groove, but then eventually the nasal lacrimal groove will give you the nasal lacrimal duct. Do you have someone
Alice,
who I dropped?
you're breaking.
I'm breaking.
Yeah.
My oh man. Let me check. Okay, let me see how I can address that. I'm using the stable internet and it's breaking. Wow. Now am I audible?
No, you are audible.
Am I?
Yeah.
And at what point did I break? At what point? What was I explaining before I?
Like some few minutes ago, like I think when you are talking about the prominences, the medial nasal prominence.
Okay. So I was saying, let's start here. You can see the two medial nasal prominences. That one. If I break again, please, yes, be vigilant and tell me I've gone off. So these are the two medial nasal prominences over there. So at this point, they have not yet fused, but you can see at this point they are approximating the midline so that they fuse. Okay. Once they fuse, they rise to what is known as the intermaxillary segment. And that intermaxillary segment gives rise to three parts: the philtrum of the upper lip, okay, the incisive portion or the incisive segment of the upper jaw. So the part of the upper jaw where the incisors would be, that's the incisive portion of the upper jaw. And they also give you the primary palate, primary palate. As an assignment, please go and discuss how the secondary palate is formed. Okay? Go and discuss. And then you can see the lateral nasal prominences. These are the lateral nasal prominences. Which on this, that's the lateral, that one, and that one. This is the medial one. This is the medial one. Okay, this is the medial nasal prominence. That one and that one. That's the nasal pit. Those are the nasal pits. This is the maxillary segment. This is the maxillary prominence. Okay, the maxillary prominence. So you can see there is a groove. There is a groove between the maxillary segment, sorry, the maxillary prominence and the lateral nasal prominence. That's the nasolacrimal groove. It's a groove initially. Okay, but then with time, when the two fuse, fusion of lateral nasal prominence with the maxillary prominence will obliterate that groove and convert it to a duct. Okay, so this groove initially connects the otic placode. So this is the otic placode here. Otic placode to your nasal cavity. Okay, as you know, the nasolacrimal duct connects the medial edge of your socket or orbit to your it drains to the inferior turbinate. So you know that is the connection of the nasolacrimal duct. Initially it was a groove, but that groove has to be obliterated and converted to a duct. That's how the face forms. So if asked, maybe in summary, can you name the parts of the face derived from there? As an assignment, please go and discuss which parts of the face are derived from my mandibular prominences, which parts are derived from the medial nasal prominences. That one I have tried to talk about. Which one is derived from the maxillary prominence, and which one from the lateral nasal prominence? Okay. So what could go wrong is a lot of things. See this. Now, in this one, you can see that the philtrum of the upper lip is there. The philtrum of the upper lip is there. And if you check keenly, you see that the incisive segment of the upper jaw is also there. And if you also check keenly, you might see the primary palate. If actually you are addressing this case, the primary palate would be there. That tells you that the medial nasal prominences, they fused. Those guys fused. The medial nasal prominences fused. So the issue is these two lateral, rather the maxillary segments on either side, they did not fuse with the medial nasal prominence. So the medial nasal prominences of both sides fused, but the maxillary prominences failed to fuse with the fused medial nasal prominences. This one, see its location and its orientation. It's an oblique cleft. So in this case, it means that the maxillary segment failed to fuse with the lateral nasal prominence. So the nasolacrimal groove was left open. Okay, so there it is. Now, yes, and there, there it is. So this is the bilateral cleft palate. So the mesenchymal masses of both maxillary prominences failed to meet and unite with the merged medial nasal prominence. So the medial nasal prominences of both sides, those ones matched. That's why you can see the philtrum, the incisive segment of the upper jaw. If you check keenly, the primary palate would be there. But these other two guys on either side decided not to fuse with the merged medial nasal prominence. That's on oblique facial cleft, and you can see the basis there. So that's macroglossia. You can see how big that tongue is, and it is due to overproliferation of the lateral lingual swellings. Okay, and it is usually associated with symptoms such as the Down syndrome and the Beckwith-Walderman syndrome. Now tell me, which one is this one? Which one do you think this is? Let me see. Which one do you think this is? Okay, I can see Tricia Collins. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, that's Treacher Collins. Okay, Treacher Collins. I want you to go and discuss. Yes, I know it's a fast arch syndrome. Go and discuss other fast arch syndromes, and go and know how can you differentiate this Treacher Collins from what are known as golden hair syndrome, Pierre-Robin syndrome. Okay, how can you differentiate? Yeah, and I was to give you a break there, but now you took the break, so we will not take the break at this point. So we just continue. CNS now. Yes, the slides will be shared as Sami said. CNS development. My oh my. So that was the first half. Now the second half is the part where now I need you to begin CNS development. So the site, the central nervous system comes from the neurotube. So mesenchyme, the neuroectoderm. Sequence. We have 4 sequences, and I need you to remember these sequences. Dorsal induction, ventral induction, neuronal proliferation, migration, and organization, and finally myelination. That is the reason I have the ones in red are the ones we will discuss in details. Myelination, I want you to go and discuss it on your own. So we will discuss dorsal induction, ventral induction, neuronal proliferation and migration and organization. And then for each of those 3, we will look at the disorders associated with each. So what is dorsal induction? Dorsal induction is simply a fancy word of saying neurulation. Okay, so dorsal induction is the process by which the neurotube is formed. So neurulation. Remember, we have 3 types of neurulation: primary, secondary, junctional. The sequence of events of the 3 should be understood. So I'll just discuss primary and secondary neurulation, go and discuss junctional neurulation. So how does primary neurulation occur? So primary neurulation, and I have put it together here with secondary, it starts with the notochord. The notochord is this, that's the notochord, okay? That's the notochord. So the notochord induces. So the notochord is found. Remember where the notochord is found. The notochord is found in the cranial part of your conceptus, the gastrula. That trilaminar embryo of yours within the mesoderm. In the upper part, you have the notochord, and the notochord is within the mesoderm. But in the lower part, you have the primitive streak. Okay, but the primitive streak is within the ectoderm or the epiblast. You can name it like that. So this is the notochord. So the notochord induces the overlying ectoderm to form a neural plate. So it induces the overlying cells to proliferate to form a neural plate. Okay, and then once the neural plate is formed, it starts to undergo invagination. It starts to invaginate to form a neural groove and some neural folds on the sides. Okay, so it's a neural groove and some neural folds there, and then it closes. Okay, so you can see the closure to form a neural tube. But then, as you know, we have a distinct population of cells at the tip of the neural folds, which detach to give rise to the neural crest cells. So primary neurulation, it is induced by the notochord. What is the source of mesenchyme? The ectoderm. So EMT, MET. EMT means epithelial-mesenchymal transition. MET is mesenchymal-epithelial transition. Let me remind you the characteristics of the epithelium. One of the characteristics of the epithelium, which you said, was close apposition of cells. The cells are closely opposed, closely attached to each other. That's an epithelium. But mesenchymal cells, they are loosely attached. Okay? So see what is happening for the neurocrest cells. So the neurocrest cells, initially, they are these cells. They are epithelial cells. But once they detach, they become migratory. They do not, in quotes, do not become closely opposed. They lose that property of close opposition. So neurocrest cells undergo what is known as epithelial-mesenchymal transition. Okay? So epithelial-mesenchymal transition applies for the formation of the neurocrest cells during primary neurulation. What about secondary neurulation? Now, secondary neurulation takes place in the caudal parts of the embryo. In this case, caudal parts of our embryo would mean the sacral region and the coccygeal region. So in those regions, the notochord is absent. The notochord does not extend to those regions, but the neurotube has to form. How does it form? One, mesenchymal condensation. So mesenchymal cells, which were uh, uh, not adhesive to each other, which were not closely opposed to each other, they condense. So in this case, they undergo mesenchymal epithelial transition. They cease to become mesenchymal cells, become epithelial cells. Epithelial cells have that property of being closely attached to each other, that property of cohesion. Okay, so that property of cohesion, that property of being together, that's a property displayed by epithelial cells. Okay, so mesenchymal cells are discohesive. They cannot come close to each other. But now, for us to form the secondary neurotube, you have to transform those mesenchymal cells to epithelial cells. So you form what is known as a mesenchymal rod or a neural rod. And then that neural rod undergoes cavitation. You can see the central part undergoes cavitation to form a neural tube. Okay, that's a secondary neural tube. This is a primary neural tube. But now those two guys, you can see this is the caudal part, this is the cranial part. So this is the primary neural tube. This is secondary neural tube. You can see it. You can see it. So the two have to fuse. So that process of fusion is what I'm referring to as the junctional neurulation. And junctional neurulation takes place at the level of S2. So anything caudal to S2, developed by secondary neurulation. Anything cranial to S2 developed by primary neurulation. And those are the three types of neurulation. So during the closure of the primary neural tube, the one formed by the induction of the notochord, so closure does not begin at one end. It begins at the center, and then closure occurs like a zipper. So closure occurs in both directions. So you close upwards as you close downwards. Okay. So that cranial part is left open, and that is the anterior neural pole, and this is the posterior neural pole. Now we have, I know different lecturers will tell you different times of closure. Okay, different times of closure. But the anterior neural pole closes any day between day 22 to day 25. Okay, I remember my lecturer will say day 22. I know others will say day 25. Okay, then the posterior neural pole closes 3 days later. So if you had said 25, it becomes 28. If you had said 22 up here it becomes 25. Okay, so the posterior neural pole closes 3 days later. Okay, so here is a diagrammatic representation of that neural tube. You can see it has 3 parts. So that there is the neural cavity. The neural cavity. Then that's the ventricular layer. Okay, the ventricular layer right there. And then this is the intermediate layer or the mantle zone. And then this is the marginal zone. And as you can see clearly here, you can note that the ventricular layer, this is where the stem cells are. Those cells which give rise to your neurons. Those stem cells are located in the ventricular layer. So once those cells divide, they migrate to the intermediate layer, and then they extend their axons to the marginal layer. That's why in the spinal cord, the gray matter is to the inside and the white matter is to the outside. But you'll ask me, what about in the cerebrum, where the gray matter is to the outside and the white matter is to the inside? What happened? We'll talk about it. So these populations of cells within the intermediate layer are further divided into 2 plates, a basal plate and an alar plate. So the alar plate is the sensory part. The basal plate is the motor part. So let me put that in other words. The alar plate is the afferent. So sensations, afferent is the afferent component. Basal plate, on the other hand, is the efferent component. Understand that. Because when we come here, you can see that, first of all, okay, let me go back maybe here. What separates the ala plate from the basal plate is this, what is known as sulcus limitans. Sulcus limitans. Please do not confuse the sulcus limitans and the sulcus terminalis. Sulcus terminalis is in your tongue. Sulcus limitans is here. And I know you'll see another sulcus terminalis in your heart. Okay? So please don't confuse those terms. Sulcus limitans is in the neurotube. Sulcus terminalis is in your tongue and heart. So this is the, so here you can see the somatic motor, visceral motor. Okay, so this is the basal plate. This is the ala plate. So those cells are further divided either into a somatic component or a visceral component. So the visceral component is the component which is near the sulcus limitans. So those cells near the sulcus limitans become the visceral component. Okay, and in the midbrain, or rather in the brainstem, these components are further broken down to give rise to what are known as special components. Okay, special components. I'll not bother you with this because I know you'll be taught under neuroanatomy. You don't need to understand. You need not to understand how they come about, but you can be asked. The basal plate, you can be asked, discuss what are the derivatives in the chat box. Tell me what would be the derivatives of the basal plate in the midbrain. What would be some derivatives of the basal plate in the midbrain? Let me see the chat box. What would be some derivatives in the midbrain? Just one. What would be the derivative of the basal plate in the midbrain? Remember, the basal plate gives rise to the motor component, the efferent component. So just tell me any efferent nucleus which you know in the midbrain. Very good, Jabu. Very good. Oculomotor nucleus. So the oculomotor nucleus would be actually derived from the basal plate, whereas structures such as the colliculi, the superior and inferior colliculus, would be derived from the ala plate. Please go and discuss the others. Do this for the pons and also for the medulla. Okay. Also trochlear nucleus. Very good. Also trochlear nucleus will be from the basal plate. Eh? Also red nucleus. Yes. Also red nucleus. Motor nucleus of trigeminal, yes, in the motor nucleus of trigeminal will be the component of the basal plate within the now pons, okay, within pons. Yes, dorsal-vagal nucleus, yes. Dorsal-vagal nucleus will be visceral motor within the medulla, okay. Please go and discuss those components. And okay, I had put a lot of details here. I don't allow us to discuss. But there is this good image in your, please go and find this image. It will help you a lot to know the different functional columns. But I believe whoever will take you through histology or gross anatomy should mention actually this. This is majorly in these areas. Now, what are some disorders of dorsal induction? What are known as neurotube defects? Okay, neurotube defects. They are broadly classified into two categories. They can either be cranial defects or what are known as spinal dysraphism spectrum. Okay, so under the cranial defects, you have an encephaly, failure of closure of your anterior neural pole, or cephalocele, where you have failure of closure of a minor part of the cranium. Okay, and within that cephalocele, it can be composed of only meninges, so it is a meningocele. But if you have some neural tissue within the cephalocele, it's an encephalocele. In the spinal dysraphism spectrum, you have all these. You have the spina bifida occulta, spina bifida cystica. The spina bifida cystica is the same as the same case in the cephalocele. It can either be a meningocele, or if you have some neural tissue within it, it's a myelomeningocele. Then you have a cysticis, failure of closure of the neurotube. Diastematomyelia, where you have the spinal cord is actually split into two. So you have two spinal cords. Okay, that is diastematomyelia. And then Chiari2 malformation. Now, Chiari2 malformation is actually it's an I cannot say it's part of spinal dysraphism spectrum, but it's connected to it. Okay, HER2 malformation is a manifestation, an intracranial manifestation of a spinal dysraphism spectrum. So if you have a meningocele or a myelomeningocele, especially a myelomeningocele, this would actually cause the structures of the posterior cranial fossa, they are somehow pulled downwards, okay? They are pulled downwards. So in HER2 malformation, you'll see that the cerebellum, part of the cerebellum and the brainstem actually are pulled downwards. You might find the cerebellum, part of the cerebellum below the foramen magnum, okay? It has been pulled downwards due to a myelomeningocele. So HER2 malformation is an intracranial manifestation of spinal dysraphism spectrum. Okay, and these are the anomalies. Okay, let me very fast. Which one is that? Which one is that? Which one is that? Guys, which one is that? Very good. That's a chordoma. That's a chordoma. Now, a chordoma is due to failure of involution of the notochord. Failure of involution of the notochord. Remember, the notochord degenerates apart from. So, what are the adult derivatives of the notochord? One, the nucleus pulposus. Okay, the nucleus pulposus of the intervertebral disc. And remember, notochord is hyaline cartilage. And if you can remember your histology, one characteristic feature of hyaline cartilage is presence of a perichondrium. So that perichondrium of hyaline cartilage is the one which gives rise to the apical ligament of Dens. Apical ligament of Dens is the other derivative of the notochord. What is that? What is that? Very good. That's an encephalocele. It's an encephalocele. You can see it's a cephalocele, but you have some neural tissue within it. So that's an encephalocele. What is that? Yes, in fact, Joy is telling us that it's in the occipital region. Yes, so it's an occipital encephalocele. What is that? Very good. That's an encephaly. Yes, that's an encephaly. What is that? What is that? What is that? Yes, that's spina bifida cystica, okay? We cannot tell if it's a meningocele or a myelomeningocele, okay? But if told in the question it has some neural tissue within it, you might want to say it's a myelomeningocele. What is that? What is that? Very good. That's a latissisis, okay? Latissisis. That one? Very good. Spina bifida occulta. Please go and find out why is it that you have a tuft of hair? Why is it that that region where the spina bifida occulta is found, why is it that you have some tuft of hair? That we try to describe. By you understanding why you have some hair around there, you actually describe also the development of the hair. So what are some molecular factors which cause development of the hair? Okay. So ventral induction, we are done with dorsal induction. Now ventral induction is the induction of the cranial 1/3, so cranial 2/3. So the cranial 2/3 of the neurotube is induced to form the brain. In fact, the brain vesicles, okay? The brain vesicles. Okay. What happened again? Okay, so the cranial 2/3 of the neurotube is induced to form what is known as brain vesicles, okay? Brain vesicles. Now, this ventral induction is mainly concerned with forebrain patterning and cleavage. Remember, you have a single neurotube, but how many? You have two cerebral hemispheres, okay? So that process of cleavage of the neurotube to form the two cerebral hemispheres is thanks to ventral induction. So we have what are known as primary versus secondary brain vesicles. We will discuss more of that. And then we have what are known as primary. So these are the ventral flexures. Okay. So the primary brain flexures are the mesencephalic flexure or the cephalic flexure and the cervical flexure. So why are these flexures important? Remember, if you look at the axis of the spinal cord, how the spinal cord is oriented in your body, that vertical axis, that is how the neurotube was also oriented. But we can all agree that our forebrain or our brain is displaced anteriorly. Okay, it has that anterior displacement. These flexures are the ones which bring about the anterior displacement of the cranial two-thirds, the part of the neurotube which eventually form the brain. These flexures are the ones which put the brain into its final position. Okay, and then we have a secondary brain flexure, which is the pontine flexure. Okay, so you'll see those flexures here. So you can see the flexures, you can see them, you can see the flexures, you can see the cervical flexure there, cervical flexure and the cephalic flexure there. And then these are those two are the primary brain flexures. Then you can see the primary brain vesicles, prosencephalon, mesencephalon, and rhombencephalon. Then they give you the secondary vesicles. The prosencephalon gives you the telencephalon, the diencephalon. Mesencephalon is retained. Rhombencephalon gives you the meten and the myelencephalon. And you can see the respective structures. But then you can see the optic vesicle developing from your diencephalon. So when discussing development of the eyes, especially the optic nerve and the retina, please take your time to understand how it develops. You start with the evagination of the optic vesicle, and then invagination of the optic vesicle to give you an optic cup, and then how it induces the overlying ectoderm until you form a lens, and there are other parts of the eye. Okay, so when discussing the eye, please just do the same. Know the site, the source of mesenchyme, especially when you discuss the source of mesenchyme. Please say the role of neurocrest cells. Please say the role of neurocrest cells in the development of the eye, and also the sequence of events. The sequence. You can see here we have now the secondary flexure, the pontine flexure. Okay, the pontine flexure. Okay, so what are some disorders of ventral induction? So disorders which are associated with ventral induction include what are known as callosal dysgenesis spectrum. So the corpus callosum, that structure which connects the two cerebral hemispheres, it could have some malformation. So those malformations could be callosal agenesis, where it is completely absent. Hypoplastic, it is there but so small. Truncated, so truncated means that part of the corpus callosum is present, the other part is absent. So say in a truncated corpus callosum, the rostrum, the genu, and the body could be there, but the splenium is absent, or the vice versa. The splenium is there, but the other parts are absent. That is a truncated corpus callosum. Then you have what are known as focal segmental defects. So all parts are there, but you see a segmental defect, a part where the corpus callosum did not form. Then we have what is known as holoprosencephaly. Now, in holoprosencephaly, the hallmark feature of holoprosencephaly is that you have fusion of the median structures. Okay, so you have fusion of the median structures, especially the thalamus. So you find the two thalami, okay, the two thalamus, okay, they are fused. That's the hallmark feature of holoprosencephaly. But if the two are fused, that tells you that even the falx cerebri is absent, and also the forebrain. So you have incomplete forebrain separation. The falx cerebri is absent, and the central gray nuclei, especially the thalami, they are fused. Those are the three features of holoprosencephaly. So falx cerebri absent, incomplete forebrain separation or septation, and fusion of the central gray matter. Then we have what is known as telencephaly. In sign telencephaly, you have fusion of the parietal lobes. Okay, so the frontal lobes and the occipital lobes are separate from each other, but the parietal lobes are fused. Microcephaly, you have a small brain and a small cranium for that effect. Then hydrancephaly. Now, hydrancephaly, the telencephalon is absent. Okay, so the telencephalon is absent. Okay, so please note it's hydrancephaly, not hydrocephaly. It's hydrancephaly. And in this case, the telencephalon is absent. So see this one. See this. You can see this is the corpus callosum. You can see that's the corpus callosum. You can see it's there, but what has happened there? It's absent. So that's part of the callosal dysgenesis. This is a focal segmental defect. Now look at this one. In this one, you can see that okay, the cortical structures are present, but see what is happening to the thalami. They are fused. You can't see that ventricle. The that ventricle is not here. You know that ventricle is interposed between the two thalami. It's absent. So that is what is known as holoprosencephaly. Holoprosencephaly. Now look at this one. In this one, you can see that the cerebellum is there. Okay, the cerebellum is there. Okay, you can see part of the brainstem. You can see the medulla, pons, midbrain. Also, the thalamus is there. But now, the telencephalon, what idea should give you the cerebral hemispheres is absent. So that is the hydrancephaly. Okay, hydrancephaly. Now, what is the issue here? Look at this one. The forebrain is split. Okay, so the frontal lobes, not forebrain. The frontal lobes are split, but you also have the occipital lobe are somehow split. But see, the parietal lobes here are fused. So the fused parietal lobes, that is syntelencephaly. Okay, syntelencephaly. It's a disorder. It's a disorder of forebrain. It's a disorder of forebrain cleavage. So the forebrain does not undergo cleavage. That prosencephalon, failure of cleavage, gives you syntelencephaly and also holoprosencephaly. Okay, so holoprosencephaly is fusion of the two thalamic nuclei. Syntelencephaly is the fusion of the parietal lobes. Parietal lobes. This one, I'm sure most of you know it as microcephaly. Finally, neuronal proliferation, migration, and organization. Okay, so I'm sure when you did histology, this question must have come up. Okay, ideally, this question should have come up. Why is it that the gray matter in my spinal cord is centrally located, whereas in my brain, it's on the periphery? Okay, why? So what happens is that, let me just go to that diagram. Okay, do I have another diagram to illustrate this? Okay, let me just put a blank page so that we can get this. Let me try to sketch it actually. So let's try to come up with a sketch. Very easy sketch. So neurotube. Yeah, good neurotube. Okay. Neurocavity, sulcus limitans. Okay, consider this is dorsal. This is ventral. So this would be my basal plates, BP, basal plates, ventral plates. But then I want you to focus on the three regions. So let me try to show you the three regions. You have a ventricular zone. Ventricular zone, which is just next to the ventricle, as the name suggests. So remember, the neurocavity is what gives rise to those ventricular structures. So the neurocavity of the telencephalon, will give you the lateral ventricles. The neurocavity of the diencephalon will give you the third ventricle. The neurocavity of the mesencephalon will give you the cerebral aqueduct previous. The neurocavity of the rhombencephalon will actually let me not say rhombencephalon. Yeah, let me just say rhombencephalon. will give you the fourth ventricle, and the neural cavity of the lower 1/3 of the neural tube will give you the central canal of the spinal cord. So those ventricular structures originate from this neural cavity. So the region next to it is the ventricular zone. So this is the zone where your neuroblast, those cells which are destined to form neurons, and your glioblast, those cells which are destined to form the glial cells, the neuroglial cells such as astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, and the rest. Those cells come from they originate from the ventricular zone. So what happens in the case of the spinal cord, once they originate from this zone, they just migrate to the mantle zone. They just migrate there, and the cell bodies will be found there. Okay, so the cell bodies in the spinal cord will be found there, and then they extend their axons outwards, and that is why the white matter is to the outside. So that is the case of the spinal cord. That's the case of the spinal cord, or the lower 1/3. Let me use caudal 1/3. Caudal third of the neural tube. Only the caudal 1/3 of the neural tube gives rise to the spinal cord. Okay, the cranial 2/3 forms the brain. I know it does not seem to be proportional, but we are not talking about the length. It's about the number of cells. The number of cells, the mass, the tissue mass, which the tissue mass is what determines. I've seen a chart. Am I breaking? Please repeat. Okay. So I'm saying the neural tube has 3 parts. The neural tube has 3 parts, or rather 3 concentric parts. We have a neural cavity. Now this neural cavity, remember the neural cavity extends throughout the neural tube. So it extends throughout the neural tube, and that means that all those structures which came from your neural tube will have a neural cavity. So the neural cavity of the telencephalon will give rise to the lateral ventricles. I urge you to please go and read about the lateral ventricles. Please know the anterior horn, posterior horn, inferior horn, and the trigone. And please know the boundaries of those structures. And then the neural cavity of the diencephalon is what gives rise to the third ventricle. Remember, how does the lateral ventricle and the third ventricle communicate? The interventricular foramen. And then I said the neural cavity of the mesencephalon, or your midbrain, is what in the adult is named as the cerebral aqueduct. And then the neural cavity of the rhombencephalon is what gives rise to the fourth ventricle. Okay, and then the neural cavity of the caudal 1/3. Now, the caudal 1/3 of the neural tube is what will form the spinal cord, is now what forms the central canal, that central canal of the spinal cord. Now, I'm saying that from that neural cavity outwards, you have 3 concentric parts. Let me draw them. So the innermost part here is the ventricular zone. That is the zone where you find the stem cells, the cells which will give rise to the neurons and the supporting cells, the neuroglial cells. So those cells are known as neuroblast and glioblast. In anatomy, or rather in medicine, whenever you hear the word blast, just think about it's a stem cell, okay? It's a stem cell. So if you hear erythroblast, myeloblast, those cells will give rise to something. Erythroblast will give rise to the erythrocytes, okay? So blast is an stem cell, okay? Or a primitive form of a cell. It's an undifferentiated cell, okay? So in the ventricular zone, you have the stem cells, those blast cells, the neuroblast and the glioblast. Now, once those cells are formed there by mitosis, by proliferation, for the case of the spinal cord, they just move outwards. They do not need the help of anything. They just settle around the ventricular zone. So in the intermediate layer on the mantle zone. And that is why And then after they settle there, that is where the cell bodies of those cells are there. After settling around so they settle around the ventricular zone, what is known as the mantle zone. They then undergo differentiation. Differentiation means formation of, for the case of neurons, formation of the axons and the dendrites. So they send out their axons outwards. So the axons go to the marginal zone. The axons go to the marginal zone. Okay, the axons go to the marginal zone, and that is why in the spinal cord you have an outer white matter and an inner gray matter. Okay, but for the case of the brain, it's something unique happens. For the case of the brain, let me use another. So for the case of your brain, it's the same structure, use the same phenomenon. So for the case, you still have your neural cavity. So you also have the three zones. You have the ventricular zone, the mantle zone, and the marginal zone. So what happens here? Something unique happens. So once these cells have proliferated in there, so whatever I'm trying to shade are those cells, are the neuroblast. So once the neuroblast cells differentiate within or proliferate within the ventricular zone, a special cell known as the radioglioblast, it extends throughout the radius. So it extends throughout the radius like that. It's known as the radioglio cell. Radioglio cell. So that cell extends throughout the length of or rather throughout the thickness or the radius of the neurotube. And then these neuroblasts use that radioglio cell as a scaffold. They use that as a scaffold upon which they migrate outwards. So in the brain, you require the radioglio cells for the neuroblast to migrate from the ventricular zone, and they go to the marginal zone. Okay, they move to the marginal zone. Okay, so that's the process of neuronal migration. You require radioglio cells. So the process of neuronal migration only takes place in your brain or the cranial 2/3 of your neurotube. And you require a special type of cell known as the radioglio cell. That cell simply extends from the periphery to the central part, that is from the marginal zone to the ventricular zone, and the neuroblast use that as a highway upon which they move outwards, as a scaffold upon which they migrate to the periphery. And for that reason, that is why if you take the cerebrum, you see the cerebral cortex. The gray is to the outside, and then once they have migrated to the periphery, they extend their neurons. They extend their axons inward. They extend their axon inward. That is why you have a gray to the outside, but now the mantle zone becomes the white matter. That's the difference between the spinal cord and brain in terms of development. That explains why the brain has the gray to the outside and white to the inside, which is opposite for the spinal cord. It's simply because of neuronal migration in the brain. Okay, in the brain, the neuroblast migrate from the ventricular zone to the marginal zone by the help of radioglio cells. I wouldn't be talking about it if it did not have a disorder attached to it. Now, we have disorders of cortical development. That process you have been talking about, the neuronal proliferation, migration, that process is the cortical development. So disorders associated to cortical development include one, lissencephaly, smooth brain. Now, a smooth brain could be one due to failure of proliferation. If those neuroblasts fail to proliferate and migrate outwards, you have lissencephaly, a smooth brain. So a brain with no sulci nor gyri. So you don't have gyrification and sulcation. So those are absent, and it can either be complete, so the whole part of the brain has been smooth, so no gyri or sulci, or partial. So you meet like the frontal parts of the brain, they are normal, but the occipital parts are lissencephalic. Then we have what is known as microlissencephaly. So in this case, the brain is small in size, but it's also smooth. Then we have what is known as hemimegaloencephaly. It's one name. Okay, it's one word. It's one word. Hemimegaloencephaly. So megaloencephaly tells you that that's a big one. It's a big brain. Okay, so hemi, one side. So you meet one of the cerebral cortex. So you have overproliferation of one of the cerebral cortex. So one, not cerebral cortex, rather cerebral hemisphere. So one of the cerebral hemisphere is larger in size. Okay. Then we have what is known as gray matter heterotopia. So gray matter heterotopia, you remember I've described that process of migration from the center outwards. Now imagine if that process does not happen. It does not happen. It means that some of the cell bodies will be in the center. Some of the cell bodies will be where the white matter should be. So you'll have gray within white. So that is what is known as gray matter heterotopia. Then we have another condition is known as polymicrogyri. In this condition, you have some form of very many gyri, okay? And they are small in size. Okay, they are small in size. Very many, and they are small in size. Schizencephaly is an abnormal connection between the brain ventricle and the subarachnoid zone. Okay, so imagine you have an abnormal connection between the lateral ventricle and the subarachnoid zone. Okay, so let me show you those anomalies. See this one, small in size, so micro. Apart from that, it is smooth, so that is microlissencephaly. Now look at this one. Now you can see that this is the white matter, but you can see you have a band of gray matter embedded within the white matter. So that tells you there was a problem in the migration. So that's the gray matter heterotopia. Now, if you look at this one, if you can see that these gyri, they are very many and small in size, okay? Small in size, okay? They are very small in size and many. In fact, in this region, they are so dense, okay? So that is polymicrogyra. Now look at this one. The brain ventricles, the lateral ventricles, are connecting to the subarachnoid space. So that's schizencephaly. Now look at this one. Now in this one, you can see that the brain is smooth. The gyri and the sulci are majorly absent. So that is mesencephaly. Now look at this one. In this one, you can see that if you compare this cerebral hemisphere and this one, you can see that the one I'm pointing is very big in size. Okay, it has overgrown. That is why even the ventricle within it is very big in size. So that is hemimegaloencephaly. Okay, hemimegaloencephaly. So that is how it presents. Then we have other important disorders, which I classified under the miscellaneous group. We have what is known as Dandy-Walker syndrome, and Dandy-Walker syndrome is a triad of vermal dysgenesis. So the cerebellar vermis is absent in some cases. Then the fourth ventricle is very big in size. So you have cystic dilatation of the fourth ventricle. And for that reason, the tocula is displaced upwards. The tocula corresponds to the confluence of sinuses. So where the confluence of sinuses meet, that's the tocula. So that part is displaced upward because the fourth ventricle is very big in size. I'll show you that. Then we have what is known as Chiari-1 malformation. Now, Chiari-1 malformation, and as opposed to Chiari-2 malformation, Chiari-1 malformation is not associated with spinal dysraphism. So this one is not associated with spinal dysraphism. So it is associated with what is known as a syringomelia. I'll show you what a syringomelia is. It's a cystic dilatation of the central canal within the spinal cord. So a syringomelia. Then we have hydrocephaly. I know you know this one, the obstructive versus the non-obstructive. So I want you to go and discuss what is an obstructive hydrocephaly, what is a non-obstructive hydrocephaly, which one is more common, how do they present? Yes, and I know you know this is a hydrocephaly. What I might do to go and find out why is it that the eyes are facing downward, what are known as sunset eyes. What is the anatomical basis of these sunset eyes? I can tell you it is due to pressure on the superior folliculars. So the vertical gaze center is found in the superior folliculars. Upon pressure, that vertical gaze is lost, and for that reason, you have the downward, these sunset eyes, downward facing eyes. Okay, now look at this one. You can see that one, the cerebellum. You can see this is the level of the. You can see this is the level of the foramen magnum. You can see we have tonsillar herniation. Part of the cerebellar tonsils has herniated. Okay, and apart from that, you can see within the spinal cord, you can see this cyst. That's a syringomedia. Okay, syringomedia. And those, if you see a syringomedia so a syringomedia within the spinal cord, together with a tonsil herniation, these tonsils, cerebellar tonsils herniated, this is a tier 1 malformation. Now look at this one. You can see the vermis of the cerebellum is hypoplastic in this case. It's very small in size. And then you can see the fourth ventricle is so big. All of this is the fourth ventricle. Okay, you can see the CSF within it. And then you can see that ideally, this is the confluence of sinuses, what is known as the tocula. Ideally, it should be somewhere there, but it has been displaced upwards. So those are the 3 manifestations of Dandy-Walker syndrome. Okay, Dandy-Walker syndrome. So cranial displacement of the tocula, cystic dilatation of the fourth ventricle, and vermodysgenesis. That's Dandy-Walker syndrome. And yeah, it's 10:30, and that is what I had for you guys. I'm expecting now questions to be coming in. Questions. If you want, we can repeat. Aha, I've been asked a very good question by Joy. How do you differentiate Dandy-Walker from Megacystana magna? Now, the former one, Dandy-Walker, you have vermodysgenesis. So the vermis could be hypoplastic or absent. In Megacystana magna, the vermis is intact. Okay? So in Megacystana magna, the vermis is intact. The vermis is unaffected. Repeat on carry 1 malformation. Okay, we do that. Now, carry 1 malformation, as opposed to carry 2 malformation, in carry 2 malformation, you had a spinal dysraphism. Okay? So in carry 2 malformation, actually, you also see the cerebellum herniated, the cerebellum will be herniated, and also the brainstem. That's carry 2. Okay, that's carry 2 malformation. And you will not see this syringomedia in carry 2. But in carry 1 malformation, we have a syringomedia there, which is a cystic dilatation of the central canal within the spinal cord. This is CSF, okay, which is dilated. We have like a pocket of CSF there. That's a syringomedia. And then you can see we have a tonsillar herniation. The tonsils are herniated through the foramen magnum. But you do not, carry 1 malformation is not associated with spinal dysraphism. It's not associated with the spinal dysraphism spectrum. That's carry 1 malformation. Okay, another question. Yes, I've repeated carry malformation. Kindly repeat the features of holoprosencephaly. So let me go back. If you have a question, you can ask. It's that sort of introduction. Yeah, now this is a holoprosencephaly. Now, in the holoprosencephaly, I want you to understand the fact that you initially have 1 neurotube. You and I have 1 neurotube. We had 1 neurotube at one point of our lives. But this 1 neurotube has to be divided to give you the 2 cerebral hemispheres. So that process of division of the telencephalon, it is the telencephalic part. It's the telencephalon and the diencephalon, parts of the diencephalon, those 2, especially telencephalon and parts of the diencephalon, those 2 undergo what is known as forebrain cleavage, division between the 2. Now, failure of that results in fusion of the central gray matter, in this case, the thalamus. So you have fusion of the central gray, okay? So fusion of the central gray matter, And because they are fused, the falx cerebri is absent. Okay, so the falx cerebri is also absent. And finally, the forebrain, you might find some regions where you have incomplete forebrain separation. So incomplete forebrain separation, fused thalami, and absence of falx cerebri, those are the three characteristic feature of holoprosencephaly. Holoprosencephaly. Okay, other questions? Let me see other questions. Explain the two different types. Now this one, Joy, that is an assignment. Please go and explain the two types of hydrocephaly. Let me tell you where you get that explanation. Let me show you where you get it. You get that explanation here. So just take your time. Go to my YouTube channel, Med Content. I have put a video on CSF. Just go and look a video on CSF. I made that video when I was first year. So back then when I had a lot of content. So just go and check that video, Med Content. If you have not subscribed, by the way, can you subscribe? I know it's been a while. I've not uploaded any video for the last, say, 6-7 months. But soon, before you start your end of year exams, guys, I'll put something, I'll put something. So just go and check it out. I have. In fact, in that video, I put a table to break the differences. Yeah. So communicating versus non-communicating. Yeah. Okay. Questions? Okay. Any other questions which are not related to maybe what we have discussed today, but related to anatomy or medicine for that case? Fingers crossed. Why are you nervous? Why are you nervous? Don't be nervous. Let nervous be a system only. So, any other questions? Questions not related to what you have maybe. What high school did you go to? You know, most people, this question I have been asked a lot of times, very many times. Many people think uh, I went to Alliance. No. I never went to Alliance. I went to Nyandaro High School. I went to Nyandaro High School. As you can hear, my English is very good. Uh, that is for the reason that I, I I used to speak Kikuyu until when I did my KCPE. I never made any sentence, any English sentence until I was in Form 1. Yeah. So yes, in first year I had a lot of and nowadays, as you can see, nowadays I'm even fumbling here. I'm confusing some things. Nowadays my content ended. In first year, that is when I did not have any things disturbing me. Nowadays, a lot of things are I have a lot of commitments, so this content ends. Yes, I started the YouTube channel in first year. How many hours study? Well, it depends on you. It depends on you. It depends on. There are some guys who are very good in early mornings. Others are good at late nights. It's just a matter of you mastering yourself. Just master yourself. No, do early mornings work for me? What about late nights? Do they work for me? There are some guys who better sleep 4 a.m. rather than wake up 4 a.m. So just master yourself and know what time works for you the best and work hard. But by the fact that you are doing medicine and health sciences courses, related sciences, health sciences, You guys are already bright. It's just a matter of now understanding. Please understand that the best way to approach it is um, have the mentality that you don't know anything. And I think that's the mentality which I adopt every day. When I wake up every day, I assume I know nothing. And by you assuming that mentality, your brain becomes ready to learn rather than having the notion that I'm already bright, I know everything, I need not to study. My friend, please study. Yeah? Please study. This is medical school, and medical school humbles everyone, including myself. How did you manage to balance the units? Well, when it comes to the units, just um, I think you need to focus. You need to know which units carry a lot of weight, and I won't lie to you, anatomy carries a lot of weight in first year. But that does not mean that you know physiology and biochemistry. So when you are dividing how many hours you study per day, uh, you should major part of the day should go to understanding maybe anatomy, but that does not mean that you don't study biochemistry and physics, physiology. Okay, so please and also behavioral science. Please go and read those modules. Yes, I read all of them up to module 10, 12. Was it how many were they? 10. Can't remember. Yes, please read the modules. Don't okay, read the modules. I know you want to go through the past papers and then you go to the exam. My friend, they can do something to you what they did to us the end of year. Uh, they just brought some new questions out of the blues. So you had not gone through the modules, you would see dust. Even us who went through the modules, we also saw dust. So, but why not? Why not? How many are okay? Differentiate between spinal cord and brain in terms of gray and white. Aha, very good. So I said in the spinal cord, the gray is to the inside, the white is to the outside. In the brain, what did I say? Okay, let me repeat that. I have a feeling that I might have said it normally. The spinal cord, in the spinal cord, the gray is to the inside, the white to the outside. In the brain, the gray to the outside, the white to the inside. It is being simply because of that process of neuronal migration. Okay, neuronal migration. Just a process of neuronal migration. Okay, let me see if I can have, let me go back. There's no, okay, let me use this in fact. So if this is the brain, if this neurotube was to eventually form the brain, what would happen is that in the ventricular layer, that is where the stem cells would be, okay? So they would proliferate there, but then you'd have what are known as radioglial cells, cells which extend, they would extend from there to there. And then these cells, the neuroblast, would use those cells as a highway, in quotes, a highway, fold upon which they would migrate to the marginal zone, and the cell bodies would be located there, and then they differentiate, and the axons, they would send their axons to the intermediate layer. And for that reason, in the brain, the gray is to the outside and the white to the inside. But this one, as it is here, this is most likely a spinal cord region, okay? A spinal cord region, because you can see the gray is already to the inside and the white to the outside. Can see the deep. I'm hoping this is not the guy from The Boys. Did you have a girlfriend? Well, as Sami has said it there, these things, once you stay in this medical school, single for the first year, second year, third year, and now in my fourth year, I think you become used to being single. You focus on your your studies and on yourself. And that does not mean that you be single. Interact with the people. That does not mean I don't interact. Okay. So I did not have. Did you have? I did not have a girlfriend then, nor now. Yes, Joy, I have answered that one. Ajibu hii, I have answered. How much do you earn?
Thank you.
They are still. Hello, Sammy.
Yes.
They are still asking. There are some other questions. What induces formation
Okay.
of brain vesicles? Well, ventral induction is a complex process. That's why I did not uh, um, uh, bother you with that. But it said that it's the overlying part of the overlying ectoderm induces the brain vesicle. Okay. How much do you earn in your channel? Well, it's not a matter of no. My channel is just for free. Yeah, it's just for free. What causes the sunset eyes? Okay. Yes. Let me explain that again. I said that the vertical gaze center, the center which is responsible for the vertical gaze, for you to actually look up, is found in your superior colliculus. Okay, and remember the superior colliculus is just anterior to the quadrigeminal cistern. I'm sure you've seen where the quadrigeminal cistern is. So if you have fluid accumulation within the quadrigeminal cistern, the, that will impact. It will cause a pressure. It will somehow compress the superior colliculus, and for that reason, the vertical gaze center control is lost, and for that reason, the eyes droop, or they face downwards to get those sunset eyes. So bad already, single it. Well, well, Rihan Alexi. I hope that is not a guy asking me that question. Hey, hey, kona mambo. Okay, I think poor performance in Cat 1. Well, Cat 1, let Cat 1 not be the dictator of your stay in medical school. That is why it is Cat 1. It's a reminder. It's just a reminder to remind you that um, it Cat 1. We usually say Cat 1 is it's what now kicks you back to reality. Okay, it gives you the reality of medical school. Okay, in medical, just remember it's a 50 plus 1. That is what you want. It's a 50 plus 1. That is the match you want. Okay? Just a 50 plus 1. The plus 1 is just to be on the safe side. Okay? So, I'll urge you, let's not cut 1 performance demoralize you as you do your cut 2. What's your number? Unataka kuweka the cabbage. Yeah, if you want, if I know some guys are feeling very generous to give me some cabbages. But it was a free session. If you want my number, you can always. Kiwi, is Kiwi, are you from UON or KU? Because if you're from UON, I'm sure you know my number. It's always there in the groups. Well, Kiwi is an international member. Letter number. Ah, what did you get in Cat 1? Does it matter? Does it matter? Does it matter? It doesn't matter. My only ask is just focus on actually acquiring knowledge. Okay, just focus on acquiring knowledge. Acquire knowledge. Don't focus on exams. Don't focus on exams. Please don't focus on exams. Just say, I don't think I'm comfortable sharing those marks here. And the very many thank yous. You are welcome. Alma ameruka demu wake bwana. I have nothing more to say if, apart from thank you. And we shall talk more. the slides will be sent to the Telegram group by Sami. Then we have another session with Sami. You see now, imagine Sami does better. Okay, you see the way I've taught. Now Sami does it better. So don't miss out that session. Okay, it's on. Sami, when did you see the session? Is someone asking?
It's on Saturday.
Saturday, same time. Saturday, same time. We shall discuss neuroanatomy now. The growth aspect. Sami, are you going to put some histology?
Yeah, I think I can put some. Though I think there is like so much to discuss under the gross part. So I don't know if we'll be able to manage to do both gross anatomy and histology, like neurohistology. But I'll just see if we get time, we might do both. Like we might do neurohistology and the gross part of neuroanatomy.
Great. As you have heard, there might be some or not. Kiwi is asking some.
Yeah, and also there's okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, okay. I was saying, if you've not joined the group, I'm sending the link right now. There is where we'll send the recording and also maybe, okay, like the slides and recording of the session. So you should join the channel.
Yes, join the Telegram channel. We prefer Telegram because uh, uh, you can always access those sessions even 2 years from today, unlike WhatsApp where uh, the documents you need to resend them. Okay, please join the channel. I'm hoping you are joining the channel as we speak. And let me stop sharing. And yeah, so that is it. So I think we might call it a night there. So my advice to you is what can I tell you as the final word? I was a first year like you guys, just a simple first year who could not. I couldn't even talk. Let me tell you, I had this bad accent, very bad. People could barely understand me. If you want to please go to my YouTube channel and find the first video which I did. My God, wow! You even wonder, is this guy speaking in vernacular or English? Okay, but that did not mean that you don't move forward. Remember, we had a lot of quarrels in the department. When I went there for my first session, remember, for those who know Dr. Beda, came to my table and he humbled me quite away. I would say what he told me, but just know it was some not so good words. But that did not mean that I gave up. In fact, that baptized me with the fire. The fire ignited some fire in me for the passion of anatomy, and anatomy became what I might call a soulmate. Anatomy is a soulmate to me. Okay, so I hope you have joined the channel, and yes, and good night. Sami, I think you can end the meeting and see you on Saturday.